So we've done our research, we've got great keywords, we're ranking for relevant competitors, we've weeded out the bad ones, we're ready to build some content around those keywords. In this part of the lecture, we're going to talk about how to optimize web pages for any one particular keyword. When we talk about this, we're going to talk about two types of optimization. The first is going to be on-page optimization. And on-page optimizations are those changes you can actually make to the markup, the HTML, the content of your web page that will affect your search rankings. The second type of optimization we're going to talk about is off-page optimization. These are the things that you don't necessarily control. The most critical part of those are how many people are linking to your content and how popular and how authoritative are those particular sources that are linking to you. Again, there are things you can do to try to boost this, right? To try to manipulate this in some way. There are tactics for link building and outreach that can help get good, high quality links to your content. But for the most part, you just have to be super diligent about creating awesome content and do all the right things to answer questions for your users that are relevant and useful and good, solid keyword research behind it. But in order to optimize for a page, the crawlers have to first be able to get to that page. We touched on that a little bit in a previous section, but it's so important that your web pages are accessible to search engine crawlers. They can't be embedded behind a login, right? You can't have every user who comes to your page have to submit a form in order to see your content. It shouldn't be embedded in Flash, Ajax, or some other form of multimedia that masks the content from the Google site crawlers. It shouldn't be behind JavaScript. It should be clean, clear HTML. Everything from your headings to the title of the page to your paragraphs to the captions on images should be able to be read by your Google site or other search engine spiders and crawlers. It should be shareable. You should have descriptive URLs that are clear. A URL, again, is the web address for any one particular page. You might want to think about including share buttons, social sharing tags, and using some of the open graph coding techniques that Facebook and Twitter and other social media sites recommend in order to share your content properly. We're not going to go too in depth into that, but one thing to remember is that each social media outlet has particular ways it likes content to be coded on a web page in order to share properly. How does Facebook determine which image to use? How does Facebook determine what title or what snippet to use when you share? Those things can be done by using open graph tags and other forms of coding that social media sites really like you to use. Another point is your site structure actually crawlable. Do you link to every page from your main menu? Do web page content link to other web page content within the actual body of the text? Remember, spiders only crawl links. That's how they get from one page to the other. So your site better link to every page that you have on the site in a clear, consistent, and logical way. Static URLs are another important thing to remember. Don't change URLs. If you create a URL, leave it alone. If you change your URLs to a particular page often, that's going to hurt that page in search results. Remember, a crawler crawls and indexes those pages. It stores them away in a database. It doesn't want to have to do that over and over and over and update over and over and over in order to get users to your content. It wants a clear, static URL that doesn't change much. Another thing to remember is that any one page on your website should only be optimized for 2 to 3 keywords max. Remember, you want to try to get relevant queries to relevant pages. This might mean that your site has a lot of pages or that you have a blog that has a lot of articles on it. You might have to build quite a bit of content. But remember that with any one particular page, you want to think of just 2 to 3 keywords that should be related to optimize those page flows. Ideally, think of 1. Then you could really get hyper specific with what content this offers and what queries we're actually targeting with that content. So let's get into some technical basics here. what are the tags, the HTML tags? What are the actual HTML tags that you need to understand that are so critical when it comes to page optimization and SEO? The first tag you need to be familiar with, and the most important tag on any page, is the title tag. The title tag is an HTML tag that's located in the head portion of a web page, and this is the #1 ranking factor when it comes to ranking your particular page with any one query. It can't be stated enough how important crafting effective, keyword-rich title tags actually are for your web page. Another thing to remember is that when you place keywords in a title tag, it's important to put your keywords toward the beginning of your title. You'll often see organizations put the name of their organization first in a title tag, and then maybe a description of what the page is about later. So Nike Air Jordan basketball shoe second. This is backwards. Google wants you to put keywords first in your title tag. If you want to rank for those particular keywords, get the spiders to read them first. Flip-flop that scenario. Nike or Air Jordan basketball shoe first, Nike second. And how do we separate those things? You'll see people separate titles in web pages a million different ways. They'll use commas, periods, hyphens, spaces, five hyphens strung together, all sorts of weird different ways to separate. Google and other search engines have said that the right way to separate words in a title tag is by using the character pipe. And the pipe is simply a vertical line. It's located above the enter or return key on most keyboards. And this is how you separate titles in a title tag. Title tags should also be short, no more than 65 to 75 characters long. That's the ideal length of a title tag. Don't go too long. Don't go too short where you don't have enough room to include your keywords. Keep it within this 10-character window, and you're going to get some good results. The title tag should be simple. It should be short. It should be relevant to the page that you're looking at. Don't try to get tricky. Don't try to bring people in on a particular keyword that you think would be good and then give them content of a page that's different than what the title tag is actually showing. The title tag should describe the page that the user is landing on, and it should be relevant to the query you're trying to optimize for. The second most important ranking factor when it comes to the actual content on the page is the heading tags. We've seen these. If you've done any basic web design, you know how to use heading tags. There's H1 through H6, which is part of the HTML standard, and these are the headings on your actual page. This is how you separate chunks of content on the page. Heading tags should be used in order: H1, H2, H3, H4. You shouldn't skip around in that order. You shouldn't put an H4 above an H2. And each one of those heading tags is incrementally more or less important depending on the heading tag that you choose. H1s are more important than H3s when it comes to search engine results. So if you want to rank higher, try to get those keywords inside your heading tags where they read appropriately and they're crawlable and searchable by the web spiders. Finally, you should use keywords in the actual content. You should be putting keywords inside paragraph tags throughout your website. However, don't just haphazardly throw them everywhere. That's called keyword stuffing, and that's a black hat SEO tactic that's going to hurt your rankings. You don't want to put the same keyword 10, 15, 20, 35 times on a page. You want to do it strategically. No more than 2 to 3, maybe 4 placements on a particular page. The number of times you use a keyword on a page is called keyword density. You have to be mindful of this. Again, you don't want to be targeted for keyword stuffing. This is a black hat SEO tactic, meaning that it's a negative tactic. It will hurt your rankings. Another important tag to talk about when we're talking about page optimization is the meta description tag. The meta description tag is a tag in the head portion of the web page along with the title tag that actually describes what your web page is about. Now, a couple of important things to remember about meta description. The first is that it actually isn't a ranking factor. We've talked a lot about what things are actually part of the Google algorithm in order to rank higher for a particular term. Well, meta description actually isn't one of those. Weird, I know. But I also include it in this course because I think it's critically important for a different reason. And that is that the meta description is actually the description that you see below the title on the search engine result page, on the SERP page. This is a description that users will read about your website before they actually click on the results. So the reason this tag is so important is that it plays a critical role when we talk about click-through rate. Again, number one, it's important to rank high on the first page and ideally within the top 3. But the second thing is it's important to entice users to actually click. And in order to do that, you have to have a really good title and a really great meta description. Keywords should be included in this. It should be legible, readable to the humans, and it should be around 320 characters max. After that, it starts to get cut off. Users won't see it on the SERP, and it won't be useful at all. So write a good meta description, make it relevant to your user's query, and make it unique to each page. It should have its own singular, unique meta description. Another important thing to know about when it comes to SEO is the alt attribute. And this is an attribute that can be placed on a number of tags, most commonly on the image tag. And this is actually a tag that describes the content of that particular image. Where alt tags are used primarily is with screen readers for people with vision impairment and disabilities. But it's also a critical factor when it comes to ranking content. Google can read this. Remember, the spiders and crawlers are reading the content of your page, and the alt tag is one thing they're looking at. Alt tags should be very, very literally descriptive of the picture that it's describing. With the particular example you see on screen, this is a stack of pancakes. It looks great. It's delicious. This might be on a website for an IHOP or some other restaurant. But the alt tag shouldn't say something like, IHOP has the most delicious blueberry pancakes, right? That's not going to help you. The alt tag should be a literal description of what that picture is. This is a stack of blueberry pancakes with powdered sugar. That's what it is. Because remember, the primary responsibility of an alt tag is to be used for screen readers or people with vision impairments, people who can't see this image. They need to be told what this image is. So you should be literal in the description. Captions are different. Captions can be more about putting this picture in context. If this picture was on an IHOP website, I can totally see a caption that would say, IHOP has the best blueberry pancakes in the world, right? That makes sense. But when it comes to alt tags, you want to be literal. You want to describe what's in the picture. If you can make it keyword rich, that's a bonus. Another important thing to think about when you're talking about the alt attribute on an image is that Google's image search has become increasingly popular over the years. If you haven't used Google image search, I'd be surprised, but it's a function of on the search engine result page where you can toggle between web results, image results, video results, and other results that categorizes the type of result that you're going to get. Google image search is super popular, and one way that Google ranks and crawls and indexes images is by using the alt tag as an indicator of what is actually in that image. Because remember, Google doesn't have eyeballs like you and I. They can't recognize this image, at least not yet. But they use the alt tag to try to figure it out.